Hello, everybody. It's Miss Ginny from the Rotary Children's Library in Drayton Valley, and welcome to Crafting with Ginny at 3:30. Today, we are going to be doing an egg carton poppy. So it looks like this. So Remembrance Day is tomorrow, November 11th. And I just wanted to say a few things about Remembrance Day. And you can see I'm wearing my poppy. I'm wearing it on the left side, which is what they recommend. They say to wear it above your heart in remembrance of all of the soldiers that went to war to help us have our freedom. They fought in the war, and many, many died and many survived. And there's still lots of veterans that are fighting in wars. And so we want to remember those that have died, as well as remember those that are still, fighting in wars. But the First World War, I'm going to give you a bit of information about this and why we call November 11th Remembrance Day. So Remembrance Day is Armistice Day, or another name for it is Remembrance Day, and it's always on November 11th. It marks the day that World War I ended at 11 a.m. on the 11th day of the 11th month. So of course, November is the 11th month. And that happened in 1918. So tomorrow, it would be very respectful and very polite if you took 2 minutes at 11 a.m. to have a silent pause. Silence for 2 minutes. That would be very respectful to remember the people who have died in the wars. A few facts about the poppy. The poppy, as I mentioned, is often worn on the left. Usually you wear it on a collar or a lapel. I don't have one on my shirt here, so that's why I'm wearing it there, just above your heart. Keeps as close to the heart as possible. It's also the side that the military medals are worn on, so that's why they suggest the left side. Others say that men should wear it on the left and women on the right, like a badge or a brooch, but most people like to wear it on the left. So here's a couple other things about the poppy. Now, the debris and rubble from the First World War in France and Belgium caused soil to become rich in lime, and it caused the small red flowers that grew around the grave sites of the dead soldiers. So that's why poppies have become the prominence of all the dead soldiers that were lying in the fields. And there is a popular poem that was written by a Canadian artillery doctor whose name is John McCrae, and he wrote the poem in 1915 called "In Flanders Fields, the Poppies Grow." So look that poem up if you get a chance. It's a beautiful poem about all the soldiers that died and the poppies that grew around their grave sites. The poppy, of course, we said is a symbol of remembrance of the First World War. And there's another question that people ask sometimes, why does the Queen why does she wear 5 poppies? Well, the most widely accepted answer to that is that each poppy represents a different branch of the armed forces. So this would mean that the Queen is wearing 1 each for the Navy, Army, Air Force, Civil Defense, and women. So here's a few facts that you may not have known about. Did you know that Canadian soldiers served in Italy between 1943 and 1945? And Canadian soldiers helped girls go to school in Afghanistan. Also, many Canadian soldiers came home to Canada in 1919 after the First World War. And last year, in 2019, that marked the 75th anniversary of D-Day and the Battle of Normandy, which was a very, very bloody battle. But anyway, that's just a few facts about Remembrance Day. The other thing I wanted to mention is not only people. So there were men and women who were in the war. Some were soldiers, some were nurses, some were medical doctors. There was all sorts of people involved in the war to help us receive freedom. And I just wanted to mention there were also animals that helped in the war. So one of the animals was pigeons. So during the wars, the pigeons carried messages attached to their legs, and they also went on planes and ships to carry SOS messages back to base in case of an emergency. Sometimes they even wore tiny cameras to take pictures of enemy locations. And more than 100,000 pigeons served in the First World War, and 200,000 served in the Second World War. So that's pretty interesting. So, you know, certain animals were very beneficial during the war as well. Another animal was bears. Bears were often regimental mascots because they shared love and affection with humans, and they were believed to bring the soldiers good luck. Winnie the bear, who inspired the character Winnie the Pooh, was a mascot in the First World War. And Juno the bear, named after Juno Beach, where Canadians came ashore in France on June 6 in 1944, that is the official mascot of the Canadian Army. Now, there are some other animals that helped out as well. Elephants. Elephants were trained to perform tasks like carrying and placing thick logs along a road or a bridge. So their strength made them very useful in wartime construction projects. During the Second World War, they were used in Burma, which is now Myanmar, to help build roads and transport humans. Also, dogs were very much involved in the war. They were trained to serve in war as messengers by carrying secret notes in their collars. And they also served as watchdogs, search and rescue dogs, para-dogs, which means they were trained to parachute out of planes, demining dogs, so they sniffed out landmines and other explosives, and they were companions, so they provided love and comfort to their human friends. So that's pretty neat. The other ones that were important were cats. Cats were often kept as mascots on ships during war because they are hunters and they controlled the rat population. And they adapted well to life at sea, and they were easy to care for. They were also good to cuddle when the sailors were sick, fearful, or lonely. Of course, another major animal that helped out in the war was horses. Horses served in the war by carrying soldiers on their backs in battle and by pulling weapons, artillery, supply wagons, and ambulances, and more. And they were also mascots and loving companions to their human caregivers. We know horses are lovely. Horses continue to serve in places where rough terrain makes carrying supplies by truck too hard. So that's pretty interesting too. So now you've learned a little bit about the poppy, about Remembrance Day, and about all the people that were in the wars as well as the animals. All right, so let's get on with our craft. So as I mentioned before, we're going to make an egg carton poppy. So of course you are going to need, for supplies, you're going to need an egg carton. You're going to need some red paint, and I just use some acrylic paint along with a paintbrush. And I find these sponge paintbrushes work really well, but if you don't have one of them, just use a regular paintbrush. And you'll want a little paint tray to put your paint in. And then you're going to need also some black construction paper, just a little bit, and a little bit of yellow, because you're going to need to trace out circles. So you're going to need one black circle and one yellow circle. Now I've already done that. I've already cut them out and traced them. So you're going to need a pair of scissors. So I've got a smaller yellow circle that's going to go inside a black one. Now, if you don't have construction paper, you can use yellow buttons if you want, You can use black buttons as well if you want. And the other thing you're going to need is some glue. So you'll need a glue stick. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut out one part, just a part of the egg carton there. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut it out. All right, I dropped my egg carton. Okay, so then the next thing that you're going to want to do is you can see I've cut it out. Now I want to make this more circular. So you see where it goes lower, I'm going to cut all the way around. I'm going to cut that off. So it looks more like a bowl. Because I don't want those fringes and stuff on for my poppy. All right. So I just trimmed it so it looks like that. Now, if there's some fuzzy stuff sticking up there, you can still trim it some more. So now what you want to do is you can either paint it first in red, which I have done, or you can cut it first and then paint it red. So what you want to do is you see inside of your egg carton, there's lines. So every few lines I am going to cut, I want to cut 4 different places. So I'm going to start here on one line and I'm going to just make a slit because we're trying to open it up like this. So I'm going to cut a slit down. So you'll see it's like that. And don't worry if it gets a little bit funny like that because you're going to be trimming it up after. So now I want to move over to 2 lines and go to the next, like the second next line, because I want to make 4 cuts in this. So there you can see that I've made another cut. So now I'm going to move over again and make another cut because I want about 4 petals. My poppy is going to have 4 petals. And then I'm going to make my last cut, move over 2 and make my last cut. So now you can see I have cut. So we have 4 petals. So now I want to trim it up a bit. And in order to make it look more like a poppy, I want to do it kind of rounded on the top. So I'm going to round it a little bit. So I'm just going to trim the corners and anywhere else that needs a little trim. Because I want it to look nice. Okay, you can see that I've got it looking rounded like that. I'm doing that with all of those 4, just on the tops, trimming it up a bit, making the corners not so square, but more rounded. There, you can see it looks more rounded now. It looks a little neater. So once you've done that, now I've already pre-painted mine, then you're going to paint it red. So I've done that. I've pre-painted mine because with this video, I needed time for it to dry. Once you have it dry, this is where you're going to put your black dot. So you want one that's a little bigger than the yellow dot. You're going to glue the yellow one inside the black one first. And then you're going to glue them together inside the poppy. So let's glue the yellow onto the black first. So there you can see I have glued the yellow dot that's smaller than the black one on the inside of the black one. Now I'm going to put some glue on the back of the black and I'm going to glue it to my poppy, to the center of the poppy. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to glue it into the center. And there you can see that you have made a poppy. Now you can make as many as you want. You can also, if you want to, you can take a green pipe cleaner, poke a hole in the middle and stick the pipe cleaner through to make a stem for it. But if you just want to make the poppy like this, then that's how you make the poppy. So you see, I have made 2 poppies. Remember, I said if you wanted to use buttons, if you don't have construction paper, you can use black construction paper and yellow construction paper, or if you don't have construction paper, you can use a black bigger button and a yellow button that's a little bit smaller. So that's how easy it is to make an egg carton poppy. I hope you enjoyed this craft. I hope you learned a little bit about Remembrance Day. And tomorrow at 11 a.m., remember, show some respect to those that have died in the war. Wear your poppy and stop for 2 minutes in silence so that you can remember those that helped us with our freedom. Nice to have you with me, and I hope you enjoy the craft. And remember, the paint has to dry before you can paste those other things on. All right. Thank you again, and we will talk to you soon. Bye for now. And happy Remembrance Day for tomorrow.